All right, ready to dive deep. Today, we're all about muscles, well, how they work, like the physiology of it all. We've got this handout from Dr. Rasha Eldeeb, pretty in-depth stuff. So if you've ever wondered, how your brain goes move and your body actually does, or maybe you've got that bio exam coming up.
Oh, this'll be perfect for that. Muscles are like tiny little machines, right? Converting energy, making us move. It's more complex than people think. Really fascinating.
I'm hooked already. So where do we even begin?
Got to start with the basics. Nerves, muscles, they both use electricity, but Dr. LD points this out. They're not identical. And those differences, well, they're kind of crucial.
Makes sense. One sends the signal, one does the moving. But what are the big differences?
So resting membrane potential. Muscle cells, way lower. It's like they're more chill, At rest, they're at negative 90 millivolts. Nerve cells, negative 70. Big difference.
So they need a bigger jolt to get going then.
Exactly. Higher threshold to fire. But then their action potential, it's larger, lasts longer, like they're storing up that energy for a bigger impact.
Huh, so it's not just on-off then. There's levels to it.
Oh yeah, tons of nuance. Dr. Eldeeb mentions these after potentials too. Think of them like tuning the response. Like the brakes on a car, got to be smooth, no jerking around.
Okay, good analogy. What about excitability changes? I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, that's actually pretty straightforward. Dr. Eldeeb says it's basically the same in muscle cells as nerves. It's all about like resetting so the muscle doesn't go haywire, overstimulated, absolute refractory period, all that.
Right. Rings a bell. But we've got the spark, the signal. Muscles need fuel to actually do the moving though, right? That's where the machine analogy comes in.
Spot on. And that fuel, that's ATP. Dr. Eldeeb gives us the whole equation, but the cool part's how they get it, how they use it.
Let's break it down. First one, creatine phosphate. That sounds familiar.
That's your quick burst, your sprint fuel, fastest ATP, but it burns out quick, 7 to 10 seconds tops. Catching the bus, few quick reps at the gym, that kind of thing.
Okay, makes sense. But what about like longer stuff, marathon, even just walking all day?
That's glucose territory. Main energy source, Dr. Eldeeb talks about 2 ways to break it down. Aerobic, anaerobic.
Oh, wait, I remember those aerobics with oxygen.
Wow.
Ringo.
Like a marathon runner, slow, steady, efficient. Oxygen's there. You're good to go. Keeps going and going.
Long workouts, that's how we do it. But anaerobic, that's the lactic acid one, right?
You got it. Sprinter style, fast, powerful, BUT. That lactic acid builds up. You get that burn, eventually hit the wall.
So trade-off, quick energy, but with a price.
Still crucial, though. When you need that burst, oxygen can't keep up. Lifting something heavy, sudden sprint. That's anaerobic kicking in.
Wow, our bodies are smart. Different systems for different situations.
Speaking of lactic acid, I'm curious. Dr. Eldeeb says it's not just a waste product.
Oh, no way. It's got uses. Core cycle turns it back into energy. Even the heart can use it as fuel.
Wait, so my muscle burn is powering something LSE? That's kind of awesome. It is. And this ties into what Dr. Eldeeb calls oxygen debt. Anaerobic, it's like borrowing energy, no oxygen. Got to pay it back, though. That's why we huff and puff even after working out.
Uh-huh. So that's why I'm still gasping after a sprint. It's all coming together. But this is just the start, right? We haven't even gotten to muscles actually contracting.
You're right. This is where it gets really interesting. The actual movement part.
It's what muscles do, right?
Yeah.
So how do we get from electricity to, like, physically picking something up?
That's what Dr. Eldeeb calls excitation-contraction coupling. Basically, the signal sets off a whole chain reaction, and the muscle fibers, they actually shorten.
And what's the main player in all this? What makes it happen?
Calcium. Tiny little calcium ions. They're like the directors, making sure the whole contraction goes right. So action potential arrives, right? That triggers calcium release. It's stored in this place called the sarcoplasmic reticulum.
Okay, so calcium's out. Does it just, flood the whole muscle cell?
Nope. Very specific target. There's this protein, troponin, that's attached to another one, tropomyosin. Now, tropomyosin, think of it like a bodyguard, blocking these binding sites on actin. That's the thin filament.
Wait, so actin, that's what interacts with myosin, right? The thick filament.
Exactly. And myosin's got these heads. They want to bind, but the bodyguard's in the way.
So calcium's like the VIP pass then. Tells the bodyguard to move aside.
Perfect analogy. Calcium binds, troponin shifts, tropomyosin moves, boom, binding sites open up. Now myosin can grab on, and that's where the real action starts.
This is where the ratchet theory comes in, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Eldeeb explains how the fiber actually shortens. Sounds complicated.
It's pretty cool when you visualize it. Myosin head, it's like a lever. ATP is the power source. Splits the ATP, stores that energy, like cocking a spring.
So it's ready to go. Then what?
Binding sites are open, energized myosin head. It attaches to actin.
Okay, they're connected. Is that the contraction?
This is it, the power stroke. Myosin head, it tilts, pulls the actin like inwards towards the center of the sarcomere. That's the basic unit of contraction.
So it's like a tiny tug of war. Myosin pulling actin makes the muscle shorter.
And it's happening in millions of sarcomeres at once, all coordinated. That's how we get big movements.
That's amazing. Okay, so myosin pulls, contracts. How does it relax again?
Calcium gets pumped back out into storage. No calcium, troponin goes back to normal, tropomyosin blocks everything again, myosin detaches, fibers lengthen, back to resting state.
Like flipping a switch then, calcium's gone, body guard's back, muscle relaxes. It's wild how all these tiny parts work together so perfectly. And Dr. Eldeeb, she mentioned some pretty mind-blowing facts about how fast it all happens.
Right. Multiple contractions per second. Those myosin heads are constantly going attach, pull, detach, repeat. And the type of energy they use, that depends on what you're doing too. Sprinting, that's a lot of anaerobic, needs that quick energy. Marathon, that's more aerobic, long haul.
So efficient, our bodies adapting to whatever we throw at them. We're like walking examples of this stuff. What other cool facts or takeaways stood out to you from Dr. Eldeeb's work?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Like all this happening all the time and we don't even think about it. But what gets me is it's not just like separate parts doing their own thing. Dr. Eldeeb's big on how connected it all is.
Oh, definitely. Electrical signals, energy, the actual contracting, muscles are always adjusting, optimizing.
Like they have their own intelligence or something, always trying to be better.
Exactly. Which makes you think, what happens when it goes wrong? And that system breaks down.
Good point. We're talking about perfect muscles here, but in real life, there's injuries, fatigue, diseases.
That's when understanding this stuff really matters. Like even just muscle soreness after exercise, those are tiny tears in the fibers, right? Inflammation, the body's repairing itself, fascinating stuff. Makes you think twice about pushing too hard. And then there's like muscular dystrophy, that's the proteins themselves. And the research on that, it's pushing what we know about muscles even further, leading to new treatments.
It shows we've learned a lot, but there's still so much to discover. And it's not just about athletes. It's about everyone.
Absolutely. So wrapping up this deep dive, I gotta say, I'm kind of in awe. These little machines working so hard.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate your body, doesn't it? All that energy, movement. It's what makes us, us.
Couldn't have said it better. And for everyone listening, keep that curiosity going. Dig deeper into what interests you. What happens when muscles don't get enough oxygen? Different types of training, how does that change things? So much to learn.
Keep asking those questions and never stop being amazed by what your body can do.
Well said. Thanks for joining us for this muscle deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.